Hi guys, John Adamson with See No Evil, and we are continuing in reading the 1776 report, which was put out by the 1776 Commission to fight the 1619 Project, and part of what's called a progressive movement to change the very history of our country and make it about the oppression of people groups rather than the foundational principles of freedom for all. So it is appropriate that we talk next about the section on progressivism. So this is in section 4 of the report, and there is a subsection entitled Progressivism, and I'm going to read that now. In the decades that followed the Civil War, in response to the Industrial Revolution and the expansion of urban society, many American elites adopted a series of ideas to address these changes called progressivism. Although not all of one piece, and not without its practical merits, the political thought of progressivism held that the times had moved far beyond the founding era, and that contemporary society was too complex any longer to be governed by the principles formulated in the 18th century. To use a contemporary analogy, progressives believed that America's original software, the founding documents, were no longer capable of operating America's vastly more complex hardware, the advanced industrial society that had emerged since its founding. This is a quote that I'm about to read that's in the document on this page that I'm reading from Calvin Coolidge. We live in an age of science and of abounding accumulation of material things. These did not create our declaration. Our declaration created them. The things of the Spirit come first. Unless we cling to that, all our material prosperity, overwhelming though it may appear, will turn to a barren scepter in our grasp. Okay, so this is going on about progressivism. More significantly, the progressives held that truths were not permanent, but only relative to their time. They rejected the self-evident truth of the declaration that all men are created equal and are endowed equally, either by nature or by God, with unchanging rights. As one prominent progressive historian wrote in 1922, to ask whether the natural rights philosophy of the Declaration of Independence is true or false is essentially a meaningless question. Instead, progressives believed that there were only group rights that are constantly redefined and changed with the times. Indeed, society has the power and obligation not only to define and grant new rights, but also to take old rights away as the country develops. Based on this false understanding of rights, the progressives designed a new system of government. Instead of securing fundamental rights grounded in nature, government, operating under a new theory called the living constitution, should constantly evolve to secure evolving rights. Do you see how the belief in evolution is integral to progressivism? Based on what's just said here. Something I've actually said in the past. Not quite put so eloquently, but I have basically alluded to this. In order to keep up with these changes, government would be run more and more by credentialed managers who would direct society through rules and regulations that mold to the currents of the time. Before he became President of the United States, Woodrow Wilson laid out this new system whereby the functions of government are in very real sense independent of legislation and even constitutions. Did you get that? That a government could be run apart from the law? That was the President of the United States who said that. Meaning that this new view of government would operate independent of the people. Far from creating an omniscient body of civil servants led only by pragmatism or science, though progressives instead created what amounts to a fourth branch of government called at times the bureaucracy or the administrative state. This shadow government never faces elections, and today operates largely without checks and balances. The founders always opposed government unaccountable to the people and without constitutional restraint, yet it continues to grow around us. I'm going to stop there because that's one section. I'm going to read that last sentence again. The founders always opposed government unaccountable to the people and without constitutional restraint, yet it continues to grow around us. There are groups of individuals that make the decisions of this world, and they guide the policies, and they guide the governments, and they guide even the people, unbeknownst to them. We would call that entity social media, which really, if this is a fourth branch of government called the bureaucracy or the administrative state, I would say then we'd have to designate social media the fifth branch of government. So ask yourself again, was this racist? Was it historically inaccurate? And was it hard to understand? And I would argue not. This is John Adamson with See No Evil. Please open your eyes and proclaim boldly what's going on around you before you can't proclaim it anymore.